And I think we're seeing the same with the enquiries. Once we can get people through the door and they understand that we know what we're doing, we've got the equipment, we know it works, we can show them tangible results, then that sort of does start to drive the system forward. So I think, yeah, I'd like to think that we're entering in a far more commercial phase of Powerhouse than we've ever been in before.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Paul Emmitt. He's the CEO of Powerhouse Energy. Paul, very good to speak with you. This week's update feels like a shift from promise to traction, from your first non-Engsolve revenue contract to around 10 live project inquiries. Are we seeing Powerhouse move into a more commercial phase now?
Yeah, morning, Stephen. Yeah, I think so. I think, we've worked pretty hard since the opening of the FTU, nearly 16 months ago. And I think people are starting to see, one, that we have something tangible here that they can come and look at and actually take forward into the feasibility side of a project. But also what we're seeing is the more people we get through the door, the more people understand the expertise that Powerhouse has as a business. The battery project has really come from the fact that we offered some free testing in reality to a local company. That grew into more of a partnership, and now this has landed with a contract, and it's something that I think the Powerhouse staff are quite proud of because it's not an Engsolve project. Historically, engineering has been an Engsolve job. They feel this now really is sort of a step forward, and people really understanding what they can do. And I think we're seeing the same with the inquiries. Once we can get people through the door and they understand that we know what we're doing, we've got the equipment, we know it works, we can show them tangible results, then that sort of does start to drive the system forward. So I think, yeah, I'd like to think that we're entering in a far more commercial phase of Powerhouse than we've ever been in before.
Paul, Ballymena remains the flagship. What are the key milestones investors should watch this year, and how important is that project as a blueprint for future deployments?
Okay, so Ballymena is extremely important. I think it's the only project we have currently on the books that we can drive. So from a milestone perspective, planning is going fairly well. Obviously, we've had a few queries back. They have now all been resubmitted. Again, unfortunately, it's a system that runs at the speed of the planners. We can't drive the system. So I'd say the next milestone is getting the planning permission through. Once we get the response from the Environment Agency within that planning, we can start a permit application. So really, we just need to keep driving forward. We have waste here at the moment from our preferred waste supplier in Ballymena to test on the FTU, which looks really good. So we just need to drive. We're driving for off-takers at the moment. Spoken to a number of companies in Northern Ireland. I spent a week out there just after Christmas. And, we just need to keep the pressure up really on that system. But it's very much a chicken and egg scenario. I mean, we need the planning for people to take the next phase more seriously, and then once they start to take that more seriously, we need to get the permits. So it's just a system we have to follow, really.
What struck me in the update was the breadth of opportunities. So the Middle East, Australia, Central Europe, the Caribbean. Where are you seeing the strongest demand for waste to energy right now, and what's driving it, Paul?
So that's quite an interesting question, because I think what we're seeing at the moment is, yes, we've got this breadth of opportunity, but what we're seeing at the moment is very different scenarios from each country. So, for instance, the scenarios we're looking at in Chile is very much a decarbonisation play. The Caribbean opportunities are very much a step away from fossil fuel. Currently most of these islands run on diesel. Diesel is expensive. There's very little security of supply, but they have waste. So that sort of switch over for them works. The Middle East, well, we all know what the Middle East looks like at the moment. Where's it going to go next? But again, it's very much a security supply driven market from that perspective. But at the moment, we're seeing inquiries come in for really based upon decarbonisation, because there seems to be an industrial step away from net zero. They're now very much taking it in chunks. This sort of scenario of we must reach net zero by X date is now very much we have to chip away at this to get there, which is what we've sort of been preaching from the beginning. This is a transitional technology. So we're seeing that, but the security of supply scenario really is people need an alternative. They need an alternative to fossil fuel, and everybody produces waste. We're also going to see a lot more competition in the market because of that. But we'd like to think because we have something tangible that we are a little step ahead of these people coming up underneath.
You talked about 10 live inquiries potentially becoming revenue generating projects. For investors looking at the growth story, what could turn those inquiries into meaningful commercial wins over the next 12 months or so?
I think this is a really good question, because I think where we are at the moment is there's so much uncertainty. We have clients now that we've been speaking to pretty much since the first day we showed the public the FTU. And we've been working with them now for nearly 16 months. And you get to a point at every stage where a decision has to be made. And if there's uncertainty in the market when that decision is due, it just gets delayed. We have to work through a system. We have to get the inquiry in. We have to sign the NDAs. We have to do a feasibility study. Then the client has to look at the techno-economics around that system, where it fits into their business, where it fits into their specific site. And then they need to jump through the hoops from their side financially. So these things just take time. I mean, I wish for everybody, for myself and the shareholders, that it was like selling a second-hand car, where somebody came, saw it, and went, "I'll take one. When can you deliver?" But it just doesn't work like that. I mean, they're complex projects, and these things just take time. And I know people don't want to hear that really, but they do. My background's oil and gas, and some oil and gas developments take 5, 6, 7 years. Now, we're not going to take that long, but we have to understand a project has to jump through the gated process, and that's what we have to follow. But it's driven by the client. We can't drive the speed of that, unfortunately.
Well, I hope you'll continue to keep us updated with your progress. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Of course. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Paul Emmitt, the CEO of Powerhouse Energy.